Incoming message delivery for Millie. Special video letter from Lumi.
Oh, let me guess. She's not coming back today.
I am merely a delivery unit. Do you wish to receive the message?
Yeah. Let's see what she's cooked up this time.
Hey Millie! So funny story. I won't be able to make it to the machining session tonight. And see, first of all, my flight got delayed because a group of puffins was blocking the runway. And you know how puffins can be so stubborn. Then, right after that, there was a huge blizzard, like you wouldn't believe it. Snow everywhere, and obviously, no one wants to fly in that. And also, my cousin Freya just happens to be celebrating her birthday today. And it would be super rude if I left early, right? Anyway, I promise I'll make it to the next session. Definitely. Probably. Maybe? Okay, I'll try. Miss you, Millie. Hope you make something cool tonight. Bye!
Message complete. Would you like to send a reply?
I would have been shocked if she actually showed up for once. Hi Lumi. Thanks for the creative update. I actually had a feeling you'd be delayed again. I'll handle the machining session, don't worry. I won't wait up. Enjoy your time in Iceland. See you whenever you actually return. Millie.
Message recorded. Sending now.
Thanks, little guy. Alright, time to get started. Music, yes or no? What do you think, folks? Yes? No? Okay, if that is what you want. Holy smoke! Aha! This time I got lucky.
This dovetail is not what I have stated in the document. It is somewhat wider, and now I need to measure it in order to make the male dovetail matching this one. I could use my calipers to measure it, but it will be very tricky and the result is unreliable. A much better measuring method is to use 2 pins. First, I choose 2 pins that will rest against the angled surfaces of the dovetail. The pin diameters should be small enough to make firm contact within the slot but not too large to prevent seating properly. The diameters should be the same for symmetry. I use 2 4.9mm twist drills. I insert the 2 pins symmetrically on opposite inclined faces of the dovetail. I also ensure that they make proper contact with the sloped surfaces using an adjustable parallel. Now I use an outside micrometer to measure the distance over the outer surfaces of the 2 pins. This measurement is called over the pins dimension. Later, I will explain how to measure the male dovetail using the same method. At this point, the workpiece is already ruined. The method is correct, but the dimensions are all wrong. I will explain that later on after milling the dovetails. Can you see what is wrong with this dovetail? First of all, it does not contact the entire area of the dovetail, only about half of it. It is also asymmetric. The sides are not identical. So, how did I end up with this excuse of a dovetail? My first mistake was to measure the maximum width of the dovetail using my calipers. The result was way too narrow, resulting in too wide cuts from the sides. A better measure would have been obtained by measuring the sides like this. Since the height of the dovetail is 6 mm and the angle is 60 degrees, the width of the sloped part will be 3 mm. Now subtract that 3 mm from the side width and the result will be about 3 mm, which is a far cry from 4.6 mm. A safe bet would be to start with 2 mm side cuts and continue with dovetail cutter from there on. As the dovetails were not fully formed, I was not able to measure them in the proper way, which I will now explain. Use the same pins that you used to measure the female dovetail. Place the 2 pins symmetrically on the angled surfaces of the male dovetail. Ensure that the pins make proper tangent contact with the slopes of the dovetail. Use an outside micrometer to measure the distance across the outermost surfaces of the 2 pins. From that measure, subtract the diameter of the pins twice. This measure is now the width of the male dovetail. You can use the measure to calculate the correct depth of cut to achieve a properly fitting dovetail.
Now, this workpiece has been ruined, so I need to make a new one. Yeah. Lucky me, not a lot of work was ruined with the ruinment of this ruined workpiece, which is ruined. Okay, so this is now scrap. I won't do it in this episode, the workpiece. There are 2 reasons for that. First of all, this episode would become very long and would be delayed very far into the future. Instead, I will make another type of episode. It's about something I have experienced quite lately. I won't really reveal what it is, but it's maybe this reveals it. I believe so. It is the most common cause of death in the USA or in the Europe. Yeah. Okay. That's and I will and I survived. Yeah. Okay. But that will be in the next episode. So, bye.